Welcome back to the city. I am Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer for the City of San Angelo. And joining us today is our new City Manager, Daniel Valenzuela. Daniel, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that.
Now, you have been with the city about 2 months now, and I know you've spent a lot of time trying to familiarize yourself both with the community and with the organization that you're now leading. What are your impressions thus far of, let's start with the community itself. What have you learned about San Angelo that you didn't previously know?
Well, first of all, really I feel like I've been on tour. I've been running around doing a lot of presentations, meeting the community. I feel very blessed. The majority of the people, I think everyone that I've met to this point has been just very, very friendly. That's something that I kind of expected coming back to West Texas. It's really nice to be able to be out there. You're driving around, people actually wave at you, and I really enjoy seeing that. You know, there's more of a family feel here also, and no real surprises. I just kind of knew what to expect from West Texas, and that's exactly what I'm getting out of San Angelo. It is, I'm very honored to be in this position, of course, and to be back in West Texas. I'm a West Texas boy. I grew up, born and raised in Fort Stockton, and so I already kind of had a feel for the culture of the area and so forth. Spent some time up here when I was a child also, and I'm just really enjoying it at this point.
What about the organization, our local municipal government? What have you learned and what have you seen thus far? What are your impressions?
As you mentioned a while ago, of course, I've been here 2 months now. I had initially intended, of course, for my first 90 days to be more of an observation period that afforded me the opportunity to observe the organization, look at the different positions within the organization, the different directors, and get a better feel for the abilities of the directors, the staff that we have. And to this point, I'm very pleased with what I've seen. I think that we have some very well-trained, very professional individuals in certain positions. I know that right now I have a good core of a group that I feel can help us lead us to much success in the future. So at this point, I'm very pleased with what I've seen.
When you talk about moving towards success in the future, you obviously have a vision for what you want the organization to be and what you want it to do for the community. Talk a little bit about what you're hoping to accomplish here in San Angelo.
First and foremost, I want to make sure that, I've talked a lot about building the public trust, and you can do that only if we are doing everything that we possibly can to serve the community. And that's the culture of an organization that I want. I want to make sure that we create a culture that's based on values. That's based on how people treat each other, how a director treats another director, how a director treats a supervisor's staff. And I think that when people are respected, they're treated with kindness and dignity, professionalism. You start seeing that also shared with the community, with the citizens. Any interaction that we have with the community, that my staff has with the community, I want to make sure that's a pleasurable experience for our citizens, that they feel that we definitely are there to serve them. And that's exactly what I want to create. I want to make sure that our citizens feel comfortable, they trust in what we're trying to accomplish, because when it's all said and done, we're doing it for them. You know, so that's one thing that I want to make sure that we create here.
You came here from Eagle Pass, and prior to that, you had served as the city manager in Fort Stockton. From what you've seen thus far in San Angelo, are the issues pretty much the same from one community to the other? Just the scale might be a lot larger here in San Angelo because we are a larger community?
I think when you deal with people, you know, there's a lot of times there's not much of a difference. I'm coming from the city of Eagle Pass. The population was about 28,000, and I had about 12 directors. I actually had 12 directors there. You're dealing with different personalities. There's a lot of times similar type problems. And you start picking up that experience. You know how to deal with different situations to make sure that you're doing everything you possibly can to benefit the organization. I haven't seen too much of a difference at this point. Yes, it's a larger scale, of course, being here in San Angelo, being a larger population. But I think that when you're dealing with different personalities of different individuals, you're actually, I mean, there's a lot of similarities there. And again, that's something that I've always enjoyed doing. I've always enjoyed mixing it up with people, being out there talking, listening to them, finding out what their interests are, what their ideas are, what their concerns are, what I can do to help make it better for them. So again, I mentioned as far as the service, I'm here also to serve the community. I'm here to make sure that the citizens understand that my staff understands that also, that I'm here to serve them too, to do everything that I possibly can to enable them, to give them the resources that they need to do the best job they possibly can.
Have you been surprised at all by how much in demand the city manager here is in San Angelo? Because you've, I mean, literally had 1 million people pulling you in a million different ways in the past 8 weeks.
Absolutely. I kind of expected that anyway. I know in coming in, I asked my assistant, and of course I talked with you also, Anthony, as far as getting myself out there and talking to the different civic organizations, the different leadership groups that we have in our community. Just to introduce myself and do some presentations, let them know what I'm about, what my values are, and it was kind of more or less what I expected. I think it's been more actually than what I expected. The good thing is, of course, the multiple requests for meetings that I've received tells me that we have a community of individuals that really care a lot about what happens here in San Angelo. So no surprise there. I knew that from everything that I had seen, even prior to applying and interviewing for the position, that this was a very progressive and is a very progressive community. So in order to have that, you have to have a lot of involvement, and it's so obvious that we do have that with the different groups here in this community. And again, I feel so fortunate to be in this situation with these types of individuals that care that much about the community.
Part of the whirlwind for you the past 8 weeks has been that you have had some change in leadership of some key areas within the organization. Most notably, that would be our water utilities and our operations, community development, and economic development. You're new to the job, so what sort of opportunity do you think that presents for you having those openings come about? Well,
first of all, what I like to say too is I'm thankful for those individuals that fill those positions for a long time. There are some great things that were done through those individuals, and I am so appreciative of them. I wish them the best as they go on to their other endeavors. There is a positive, of course, from my perspective. I always want to make sure that I surround myself with the best possible individuals that I can, people that are going to be passionate about the work that they do, that are going to be looking to better their departments, to make them, to advance the goals of the department. That affords me the opportunity to surround myself with individuals that I feel fulfill that actually show that passion, that desire to really move the organization forward. One of the things that I've always known, and I'm a big reader of books, and I study up on material that I think will help me improve as personally, and also will help the organization improve. But one of the books that I've always enjoyed is the book by Jim Collins, The Good to Great. And it talks about how good organizations become great. And one of the primary areas that he focuses on is making sure that we have the right people in the right positions. And that's exactly what I want to make sure that we have. You know, once we have the right people in the right positions, then at that point we can start planning for the future. Having the input of those right individuals, I think that is something that is tremendous as far as moving forward and having a core group of people that will be there for the full ride. So I'm excited about having that opportunity to surround myself with people that I feel will do a tremendous job for the city.
At the same time, does this also present an opportunity to look at possible restructuring of the organization? Because of course, San Angelo has a little bit different structure. We have an operations department as opposed to public works, which a lot of communities have, and we have community development and economic development working hand in hand. Do you think you'll be looking at restructuring?
Absolutely. You know, what I want to do is make sure that we have an organizational structure that allows for better efficiencies, that could help us also reduce our expenditures. And this is something that, of course, I have been looking at, and this is part of the 90-day observation period also, that affords me the opportunity to take a look at the organization, how it's structured. Is there a way of doing it better? And I've always believed there's always a way of doing things better. And that's something that, of course, I'll be discussing with my assistant city managers, of course, my directors. Before I do restructure, I definitely will get input from everyone. I want to make sure that everybody understands why we're doing it once we go that route. And the only way that I will do it is if it really does benefit the city, changing things around. So again, there'll be a lot of involvement before I even make any movement to do that. But definitely I am looking at that.
And we talk about involvement. Would that include potentially community involvement, public input?
Absolutely. You know, There's an old saying, of course, it takes a village to raise a child. It actually does take a city, a community, to develop a vision and see that to fruition also. So absolutely, I know that especially when it comes to the comprehensive planning for the community, you want to get as many stakeholders involved in that process, of course, to include their citizens, the different community groups, civic organizations that we have. We want to get as many stakeholders involved in that process to make sure that we truly have a vision of what the citizens of San Angelo see for this community. And it involves a lot of participation, and that's something that I look forward to seeing.
We only have about a minute left until the break. Once you hit that 90 days in about another month, then what?
Well, I know that I'm hoping that things will slow down a little bit as far as the presentations and everything. That's why I've been trying with so much effort to put myself out there the first 90 days and really meet with as many people as possible. I know that after the 90 days are up, then I really will get the ball rolling on things that I want to do also as the leader of the organization at this point, as far as the city manager. And I'm excited about that opportunity. So it's time to really roll up my sleeves and get busy.
We're talking with City Manager Daniel Valenzuela. We'll be back with more with him in just a moment. But first, we're going to spotlight another outstanding city employee, Senior Plans Examiner, Charlie Kemp.
I'm Charlie Kemp. I'm the assistant building official, and I'll be here 22 years in January. I started working in residential and issuing residential permits. Then I got the opportunity, the 911 addressing was part of the building permit department back then, and I got to work doing 911 addressing and then commercial plan review. Pretty much they give you the code and say read through it, and then you start applying it to applications that come through. And like I said, Tanya Palmer, I worked for her for years, and she was a really good mentor and helped me step by step, and then really encouraged me to go to do commercial, and you get more in depth on as far as like plan review, working with more of the codes and the plumbing, electrical, mechanical side of buildings and structures, and so I was real interested in that, and it just kind of grew from there. We have more and more codes. You have energy codes now that we never had before. You see more safety concerns every day. So every 3 years the code's changing. So you have to be up and familiar with what changes are coming down. Just recently they had test accessibility standards. They changed in January. So you have to become familiar with those standards. And so you can help people that have an idea of what they want to do, make that idea come into reality in a building. I'm one small part of the development service, and we're kind of the front person for that department, or the whole department. People bring in their plans, we look and see what they have, as far as they got enough building plans, electrical, mechanical, plumbing. And then we take it to the next step. We take it to the other departments to look at. We compile the notes together, and then we go over those with the developer, the engineer, or the applicant. And so we're kind of the front person on it. Another good thing being here over the 22 years, I've seen it develop into now we're all in the same building, which we didn't have that luxury, and that is, to me, it's a real benefit to the customer and to the employees. And also now we meet once a week. We started doing this about 4 or 5 years ago, where we sit down and we're all looking at plans, and it's amazing what I've learned through those, because I'll be sitting down with the engineering department, and I get feedback on what they're looking at, the fire marshal's office and the health department, and it's things that I don't know that I would have thought of even 7 years ago, but now having that benefit and sitting into those meetings, now when somebody brings something, I can already go, you may look at this, there might be a concern here, and kind of give them a heads up before they have to wait a week for the meeting. I like to work out. I like to run. My new one is down by the river. All the work that they've done, it's real nice. It's an 8 mile if you go from Bell to the park and back. It's 8 miles, and now that they've done all the work, it really kind of, you feel safer, and then it's a great run, a great path. The city's been good to me. I think that if people that have been with the city for a long time, they find that we're really here to help people. And I know, like, sometimes it's hard to hear that, if we're having to tell them, you know, you'll need to do this or this, but we're here to make the building safe. And it's really kind of satisfying when you know that you help somebody with an idea to make it reality. And you can drive down the street and you realize you had a part in this building or this building. Matter of fact, we had a DRC meeting this morning, and the gentleman was talking about 7 years ago that he had developed the area with Academy, Shannon Clinic across the street, and I was like, I was part of that at the beginning stages, and now, you know, you drive by it and you realize you had a part in that, and it's very satisfying and rewarding.
We're back with City Manager Daniel Valenzuela talking about his first 80 days, or excuse me, 8 weeks in office. Daniel, you have talked about having a strategic planning retreat with the City Council. What do you hope to gain from that sort of event?
First of all, it's always really important to make sure that we schedule a strategic planning workshop on a yearly basis. And I've always done it right before we start the next cycle as far as the budgeting. I don't believe that we can create a budget until we have a vision of what we really want to accomplish for the coming year. So a lot of what we'll be doing is discussing, you know, getting that direction from the City Council as far as what those priorities will be for the coming year, so that we can plan around that with our budget. Strategic planning also ties into our comprehensive plan. Everything that we come up with for this coming year should tie in directly with a long-term plan, 20 years down the road. What is it that we truly want to accomplish? So again, the strategic planning, it will be more of a short-range planning session that will cover up to about 18 months. But at this point, really, it's something that's really important. It gives us that guideline, it gives us that map to follow, and also, as I mentioned a while ago, it gives us the opportunity to budget, make sure that we have the monies available to see those projects to fruition also.
In May, you will have a city election, and you have a sort of unusual circumstance where you could have as many as 4 new council members. Is there any concern or any danger at all that you'll go through the strategic planning sessions with the current council, and then by the time a new council gets seated, that they may want to take the organization in some different directions?
Well, as you know, there's always that possibility. You know, I know that you have a group of individuals that come in and they volunteer a lot of their time. And they're very passionate about what they do. I know that the current city council that we have, I can tell you right now, they're very passionate about what they want to get accomplished. So there's always that possibility, but we also have to make sure that we're responsible in moving forward and making sure that we do have plans before we start our budget process. And even though that is coming up here pretty soon, we still have to get the ball rolling. I typically do my strategic planning workshops no later than February of every year. And that affords us the opportunity to really tie in, you know, as far as monetizing any of the projects that we need to take on. We need to make sure that we all have that plan for. So even though there's some risk that they may be wanting to go in a different direction, it's still something that we need to make sure that we do before we even start the budget process.
The City Council has been very complimentary of you, you know, when you were hired and since then. What do you feel like your strengths are as both a manager and as a leader?
You know, and it's two different things. Or, you know, I know as a manager, I've always, I think I've been very solid in my organizational skills. As far as the planning, whether it's short range or long range, and also developing the action steps required to get us to the goals that we've set for ourselves. And that's one area that I feel that are my strengths as far as the management portion of it. And also dealing with the staff. That's something that I've always met with success. I've been very blessed that I've been able to communicate well with our directors, staff, supervisors. So that's one thing that's been one of my strengths. Also, from a leadership perspective, is really being able to rally the troops, rally the staff together to help us realize the goals that we set for ourselves, to motivate the staff. To make them feel like they're a part of the organization, make them feel that they have a say in what is going on within the organization. So those are the two areas that I feel are my strongest points. Mm-hmm.
You've spent a lot of time to date dealing with some public concerns about our water billing system. And throughout that process, you have really stressed customer service and what your philosophy should be on customer service. Talk a little bit about what that is and what you're hoping to accomplish in order to resolve some of those concerns.
Customer service, again, and I spoke about this a little while ago, we have to realize, my staff, everybody needs to understand that we are here to serve the community, that we're here to make things better for our community also. So we want to make sure that we're receptive to any ideas that come up, any concerns, any complaints. What can we do to make our organization better from a customer service standpoint also? Training is going to be crucial. It's going to be something that has to be done, and make sure that we do have staff that care about what they're doing, but also making sure that we have the right people in those right positions. A lot of times you try to squeeze an individual into a position that, quite frankly, they're not meant to hold. We want to make sure that we have individuals that are customer service oriented, that really care a lot about our citizens, and that starts from the top. It starts, as I mentioned a while ago, our staff, they observe us. They see how we treat each other. They see how we treat them. They see how we treat the community also. And we want them to emulate us. We want them to see what we're doing and want to do what we're doing also. And we have to make sure that we make sure that they understand that this is what's expected of them also. We can't be hypocrites. We have to show. We can't just talk about it and say, hey, we need to have good customer service. Well, not only do you talk about it, you also show it, and you show it in the everyday activities that you do. The staff is observing at all times. So again, it's part of training. It's part of having the right people in there, passionate about serving the customer, the citizen, and a lot of it is about example and setting an example for those individuals.
As you're out in the community and you're talking with people, aside from perhaps water billing issues, what are the other issues that people seem to be most interested in with their local municipal government?
Well, there's various issues. Of course, you mentioned water utilities. As far as billing, one of the biggest issues, of course, is the water. And I know that right now the city has been very active in trying to make sure that we diversify our water source. And that's something that I hear about a lot. I think that that's still on the top of the minds of a lot of individuals. I hear a lot about conservation. What can we do to be more conservative with our water? I hear a lot of, just beautification. What can we do and I think that our code enforcement division does a wonderful job with James and the staff that he has there also, as far as going out there and making sure that the codes are met, that make sure that the lots are kept clean. It really varies. I mean, it goes from one gamut to the other, talking about pets and talking about water, parks, you name it. For the different individuals within the city, of course, they're all going to have different interests. Your job is to make sure, my job is to make sure that I listen to those and see what we can do to kind of formulate a plan that'll answer a lot of their concerns or put some of their ideas into motion also. So again, it's just there really is just a lot of different topics that have been discussed with me.
Obviously, water is the big issue on the minds of most San Angeloans. And I've heard you talk quite a bit about the need to conserve, and it seems like that is something that you're particularly interested in.
It really is, and again, I think that at this point there's been efforts to address that. We have communication with the citizens, through different reporting that allows us to communicate that to them, and we'll be doing more of that this coming year also. There's always a solution to a crisis. There's always things that we can do better. And I know that the community will rally together to help make that happen. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I hear, as I mentioned a while ago, just a lot of talk about it, so there's a lot of interest. And I know that we'll do well in that area.
Do you have any specific ideas that you'd like to at least explore about either incentivizing conservation or maybe even requiring some of that?
Well, again, and those are areas actually the City Council has been talking about. And when we do have our strategic planning workshop in January, those are areas that we'll be touching on too, to have a better idea of how we want to formulate a plan that will address that also. I want to make sure when we start talking about vision and goals, that it's not just what I envision, but it's going to be what the whole team, the city council, the administration, citizens, what we envision for the community, and we have to draw from that and use that as the inspiration, for us to move forward and accomplish that.
Looking out on the horizon, where do you think the greatest opportunities lie for San Angelo?
San Angelo is such a beautiful community. There's a lot of opportunity here. I think that when you look at areas, I always talk about the downtown area. I'm so proud of our downtown area. there's a lot that can still be done there. And I think when you start focusing on areas that in a lot of communities, they've kind of abandoned their downtown areas, their main streets, and they've kind of moved out to the suburbs and so forth. I think that there is a keen focus here in San Angelo to make sure that we actually focus in on downtown, make it better than what it is, and really draw tourism to our community, improve the quality of life. You know, there's a lot of work that's been done, of course, on the riverfront to make that better, not just for our citizens, but even people coming into our community. There's that aspect of it. I mean, economic development, I think we have a great group in place also that is focusing on how to bring more industry to our area. We always want to make sure that we diversify that industry, that we have different businesses that are coming in that will provide better opportunities for our citizens, and that's always something that we'll focus on. But I see tremendous opportunities here, of course, in San Angelo.
What about the challenges? What do you think those are that you're going to really have to just sort of hit head on?
Well, the challenges, the first challenge is always to try to, you know, the public trust, and I can't emphasize this enough. Without the public trust, it's very difficult to accomplish anything. Once the challenge of earning that, and it does have to be earned. Once you have that in place, then it's a lot easier to work with different groups. It's a lot easier to work with that citizen, with that civic organization that wants to team up with you. And we have to create a lot of those opportunities, and we work together as a team to help accomplish our goals. So that's always probably the biggest challenge that you ever have, and then maintaining the public trust also. And you can only do that by your fiscal responsibility, doing the right things for the community at all times. There's no place in city government to be playing politics as far as when it comes to our citizens. You know, either we do the right thing or we don't, and our goal will always be to do the right thing by them.
We've been talking with our City Manager Daniel Valenzuela, and we thank you for watching The City.